Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pixelists podcast, the podcast about all the nerdy things we love and enjoy. I'm Will, that's Blake, and man, it's been a while, so
It has been a while.
It feels good to be back in the lab. I don't know, in the
Feels good to be
studio.
home.
Yeah, back to be home
In the studio. You make it sound so
professional.
excellent. Yeah,
dude. I don't know.
Wearing pants.
That's our little secret. It would be cool. You know how like the library has all that equipment?
Yeah.
I wonder if we could ever like do a like in-person episode there or something sometime.
That'd be pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Or like a groupie episode. Any local NWAers? We can do a little group chat, a group ep.
Yeah, I wonder, that would be funny if we had anybody that was actually in this area and we didn't even know.
We're like, we'll never do this again.
Please don't come to our house. But no, yeah.
I know of one local guy because I was talking to him and he was like, yeah, I've been checking y'all's channel. Are y'all going to do which got me thinking about this. Now I shouldn't bring it up because now people are going to hold us to it. But he's like, are you going to do like a larger summary of like the first half of the campaign so far? I say half, but they meant like what had happened so far. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, we've been thinking about like a bigger, like episodes 1 through 50 kind of summary, but I don't know.
So wait, so how'd you find out he was from around here?
I was talking to him in person.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I was talking to this guy in person and he was like, yeah, I've seen your videos. Are you going to do any like more like bigger summary stuff? Because I haven't been able to watch the campaign every week.
Is this someone you already knew?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying like some rando on the street. No. And I was like, what? Okay.
I'll never be that big.
Yeah.
Someone's like, hey, you, get over here.
I was like, why didn't you tell me about this? I was like, okay. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. And then he was like, please stop mentioning your YouTube channel to me.
Just trying to eat my lunch, man.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that checks out.
Anyway, yeah. Right now.
Yeah, okay. It'd be fun to do like an in-person ep sometime, at the library or whatever. How did we even get here? I don't know, but this
is the journey we go on every intro to our episodes.
Yeah. But it's good to be back. We had the off week for Critical Role, and which also happened, or actually I don't have confidence in saying this, but I think it was also the off week for Worlds Beyond Number. So it's been a minute since Blake and I have sat down to talk about anything. So it's good to see you, buddy. And I'm excited to dive back into some Critical Role here today. But is there anything else before we go in proper that we need to mention?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
We have Guardians of the Galaxy coming out soon. This is a former Marvel channel, now full-time D&D. So we need to do our discussion on that.
Yeah, I would like to. It comes out this weekend. It's probably the most anticipated Marvel movie for me. Maybe since like Endgame Infinity War. The most recent Spider-Man was pretty hype.
Right.
But the Guardians movies have been some of my favorite in all of the MCU. So I'm really excited and kind of nervous for the conclusion. But yeah, so maybe we'll talk about that.
I'm very excited for Secret War.
Yeah.
The Secret Wars. I don't know if there's an S there or not.
Yeah, I think it's Wars. But now that you say that, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, some Marvel content we're looking forward to. We'll have to chat about it. But I think we haven't talked much about it because you and we're just trying to avoid strife, You and I have had different perspectives on.
I had some differing opinions. We still at some point.
I've appreciated the movies that are really good, and you've kind of liked the ones that weren't so good.
No, that's not true. That's not true. Maybe if we do talk about Guardians, maybe we could have like a mini all of the things we haven't talked about so far. Quick recap, catch up segment or something.
We can be like the last time we saw these characters were in the amazing Thor movie.
Oh God,
starred Christian Bale. So,
Please no.
okay.
But yeah. Oh, one other quick thing is soon. I don't know when though, but that the Matt Mercer led Dimension 20 campaign is starting,
Right,
um, which we're excited for. So,
right.
but yeah, other than that, I think that's all we got. We obviously have Critical Role coming down the pipeline still, and Worlds Beyond Number. If you haven't been checking that out, again, we would highly recommend.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, without further ado, let's jump into the business here. If you're new to us, what we like to do before we dive into our discussion of Critical Role is recap the episode to get everybody back on the same page. Especially for an episode like this where we've had the off week in between, it's nice to just kind of get things back up to speed.
right.
And so we cut that recap out and host it separately on YouTube for your viewing convenience. So if you find yourself on that video and want to see our full discussion on the episode, it will be linked down in the description below. So without further ado, I will tackle the first half today of Critical Role Campaign 3, Episode 56, By Goat or By Boat. So
Story of my life.
we pick up with the crew having just acquired their riding goats, and they are setting off on this trek to Malaismere. It's a bit of a journey, so per usual with travel segments this campaign, Matt is basically having one of the cast members roll for each day of travel. Day one, Deanna rolls, and it's a good day, no no delays or anything. Day two, F.C.G rolls, and it's a bit of a harder day's travel, but once again, there's not really anything big that happens, no big delays. Frida rolls for day three, and this is when things start to get a little dicey. He rolls poorly. I don't remember the exact number, but they basically run into a blizzard, it starts snowing, their vision gets obscured, and they end up losing a day of travel. Because of this, they must also make constitution saves, and Chetney and Imogen end up taking 2 points of exhaustion from failing this save. Um, the next day, Imogen rolls and rolls a natural one,
Yeah.
and she just can't catch a break. And basically, as they're traveling, they come across these like mountain giants that are hurling essentially like these big pieces of ice or snowballs at them. One of them hits FCG and actually, knocks him off his goat. And they decide not to like just stop and fight. They're just going to kind of keep running and see if they can just get away. So one of the giants like starts trying to chase them, and the other one is still hurling snowballs. Imogen uses her telekinesis to kind of like catch a snowball and throw it back, and they're basically beating up on one of the two giants, the one that's chasing them. And it eventually comes to a conclusion when they start like sliding down this mountain of snow to get away. And the giants basically just give up, especially after the one just keeps getting beat down by them. So they kind of like slide all the way down to this mountain. And at the bottom, there is this river, which is kind of one of the ways they could take to get to Malaismere. So they basically kind of sit there and try to decide what they want to do. Are we going to take the river? What are we going to do with the goats? Should we just keep traveling on the land? And after much deliberation, they decide that they're going to try to make a boat, a goat boat. And they're like, that way we can bring the goats with us on the raft. And so they, cut down trees, make a raft, and end up with this 10 by 10 vessel. And this is kind of like a long like segment of them figuring this out. And Matt like keeps hinting that like, hey, these goats are big. They're
Yeah,
riding
yeah.
goats. And so they're like, they eventually realize like we cannot fit all of these goats with us on this raft. And so they're still trying to decide like,
So,
okay, well, what do we do?
surely we could just leave them here, right?
Yeah,
And they
maybe let's just leave
yeah,
them here. And as they're
yeah,
like discussing this, Deanna just decides to murder one.
yeah.
She
Just full on slits its throat.
just cuts it down, and Chetney just comes in and starts like harvesting the organs and the meat. And it was kind of like a dark but hilarious but brutal moment. Um, and they essentially killed Jerry, which is the name of the goat.
You had to
They
say the
took
name.
out. Yeah. Oh, I skipped ahead one thing really quick, so let me go back. So the night they come to the river, they're figuring all this out. They then actually go to sleep for the night before this discussion continues in the morning. But before they go to sleep, FCG casts the commune spell for the very first time.
Mhm. Yeah.
Which the way this works is FCG is essentially allowed to ask 3 yes or no questions. So the first of which he asks to the Changebringer is, "Are you real?" And it's not as if like the Changebringer, like, walkie talkies into
Yeah, right.
FCG's head to answer yes, no. Matt
Yeah.
describes it these different ways that these yeses and nos come to them. So for the purposes of are you real, Matt describes like the wind whipping past, almost like tendrils of hair, stretching out to the horizon, like impossibly far. And like there in the distance, he can kind of see this figure that resembles the Changebringer. And he takes this to be a yes to his question. So the next one he asks is, have you been watching me? So the wind then kind of tears the Changebringer coin that he has in his chest out, and it lands heads up. Um, and FCG is like, thank you. You've helped me a lot already. And so the final question then is, do you need help? And there's this long pause on the horizon, and the tendrils of hair like dance around FCG. And then he can see the figure, again, impossibly far, kind of lift up and like get obscured back into the sky. But he can also see all these other figures that they're returning to. Um, and there's this emotion that is not quite fear, but it's a cold emotion that confirms yes, she does need help. And then the three questions being gone, the kind of figure disappears. Um, then with the final, oh, excuse me. Then before bed that night, the crew is like, Imogen, should you reach out to Laudna in your dream tonight? Just see if you can contact her. But given what happened last time when she tried to do the dream walking after the solstice, she was like, maybe we shouldn't, especially with the exhaustion that I have. So let's not do it tonight. So the party makes their night watches, gets their rest, and Imogen and Chet clear 1 point of exhaustion. Okay, then the next morning they're having this deliberation, and that's when the goat murder happens.
Yeah.
Um, and so the other goats are freaked out. There's this great moment where Fern speaks with animals with one of her goats and is like, what do you want to do? And he's like really freaked out, like, what happened to Jerry? Um,
Yeah.
so Fern basically tells them, hey, all right, you guys stay here in this cove until we get back. There's plenty of meat for you. Just, eat Jerry. And some of them like already have started eating him. So with that being decided, finally, they get on the boat that they made and they start traveling through the river. Um, there's just a bit of a little travel montage here. There's a bit of a discussion about Chetney and lycanthropy and the fact that he bit Frida. And this is the first time that Chetney is finding that out. And they're like, oh, what the heck? Like, is he going to turn? And they don't, Frida doesn't show any signs being worse for the wear, but they won't really know until the next full moon. Because that's when, if he was infected, that's when something would happen if it was going to. So Fern rolls for the day's travel and rolls poorly. Matt describes the Savalier wood kind of like coming to life and all these creepy noises that they can hear as night falls. And they can hear something heavy kind of like crack in the distance as it moves. So Imogen casts Dancing Light to get a better look at things. And they can see these little fairy creatures kind of dancing around something much bigger, kind of like flies surrounding a cow or a horse. Um, and as they get closer, they can see this bog mound type of creature covered in moss and vines with this giant eye stalk that emerges and stares at them. And Imogen moves the lights closer to try and blind it, but as she does, the shape just vanishes. And the next thing they know, it's like bursting through the water, coming straight toward them. And that's where we go to break.
Yeah, so coming back from break, we actually go straight into combat with this creature that Matt calls a bog wretch. And the mini actually looks like a large toad-like creature with tentacles and eye stalks, like on top of it. I guess your typical creature of nightmares. So they are fighting against this bog wretch and these floating pixies that are helping it. And typically, what we do in combat, we just cover the high points. There's gonna be a couple of things that happen. One, most notably, the pixies are all about crowd control. So they're going to cast confusion on Fern, to which Sam's going to say, "Joke's on you. Fern's always confused." So she staves that off. They also cast polymorph on Imogen, who fails the wisdom save and turns into a fox. And then separate from that, the bog wretch is actually going to, with its long curling tongue, grab Frida and begin to pull Frida towards its maw. Um, Deanna's going to do control water to create a sort of tidal surge of water that's going to hit the pixies and break the polymorph almost immediately on Imogen. And unfortunately, we do find that Frida does in fact get swallowed whole into this cavity of darkness within the creature, in which the stomach acids begin to digest Frida. Fortunately, the party does quite a bit of heavy hits against the bog wretch. We have inflict wounds. We have a massive nat 20 from Chetney as well. And the bog wretch actually ends up vomiting Frida out of its stomach, and then deciding to make its escape into the water, to which Fern is going to cast Entangling Roots to essentially keep it in place. Another round goes by, and they ultimately end up. I think Chetney casts Shatter, which I didn't realize he had, and it's going to cause a nearby tree to shatter and impale the bog wretch, killing it. And I think the pixies like run away. They're like, "Forget this, we're out of here."
Yeah.
And then Deanna, remembering that Revivify's out, Resurrection's out, Deanna very quickly casts Cure Wounds on everybody to get everybody topped up. So the journey continues. There's more jokes about Aormatons having a death wish, because Frida was, so quick to jump into battle, and even after getting digested, was like, "Yeah, that was pretty fun." To which Deanna's like, "What is wrong with you? Like, why are you like this?" And ultimately, they travel deeper into the Savalier Woods towards Malesmere. They're not quite sure where they're going to go, and so Fern actually dips underwater and does speak with animals on this oily black catfish-like creature. It has no eyes, and this is like pristine voice acting from Matt. This
Yes, it
very
was so
much
good.
blurble kind of answers. I was blown away. But basically the fish is like, Fern's like, "Hey, is there anything we need to worry about?" And the fish basically describes something called the Wolf King, which the party's like, "Well, what's the Wolf King?" And Chetney naturally is like, "My reputation precedes me." But then they start talking about like, "Hey, weren't you bit by somebody?" And he's like, "Well, I killed that person." But they're also kind of like, "But could it be that person, or did you bite someone else?" Or so it's kind of unclear. But Chetney's not sure who the Wolf King could be. Also, they do get confirmation that there's no waterfalls coming up, which they were worried about, because it's a very like murky, cryptic, kind of swampy area. And in fact, on another days of travel, the party's going to get hit by this creeping black fog that rolls over the raft. Most of them are going to avoid it. However, I think it's Imogen and F.C.G. Imogen and Fern. I don't actually remember who gets hit by it.
I think it might have been
But
Deanna and
Deanna.
Fern.
Okay. Well, they take a point of exhaustion, and they lose their. Actually, yeah, you're right. Fern was definitely one of them. No, they both do, because Deanna says, "Matt, I don't have much health anyway, right?" And Matt's like, "Now you have even lower," because they take the point of exhaustion, but they also lose 5 maximum hit points. And then Fern's like, "Is this forever?" Or and Matt's like, "Who
You don't know.
knows?" And Deanna is going to try to cast Disenchant. I think for maybe I think on Fern, and Matt explains that this is a curse and not an actual magical effect. There is some more conversation that happens. Deanna asks Frida if Frida's worried about maybe becoming a werewolf, or like what's going to happen. And Frida's like, I kind of like the feeling of being scared. But then asks Deanna like, "Hey, how do you pray?" And it's kind of this interesting point, keeping in mind that Frida was kind of like the most agnostic one of the pair. Ends up saying a prayer to the Dawn Father, just asking for safety for the group, and especially for Deanna and F.C.G. Continuing on with the journey, they make their way to Malesmere, this large city, as Matt describes it, with these hulking towers and an enormous amount of trees that have sort of crept over and covered the path. as they're entering through the riverboat. And they also see an enormous amount of old bodies, corpses throughout the city. And they're looking for the Guild Hollow Tower. And on the way, they keep hearing this creeping noise. Imogen's going to cast her. It was her red spiritual summon, right? Is what she was bringing up.
Yeah, I think which I think is a Raylora, presumably.
That's what I thought too, right?
Yeah.
And essentially summons it with a distant sorcery point, um, pretty far out, and it's immediately destroyed by this hulking elk-like 10-foot tall abomination. Is the best way I can describe it, because Matt describes this elk-like creature with faceless features and like spidery tendrils for legs. Just very
It
terrifying.
was like Dark Souls
Um,
boss,
yeah.
basically.
Oh, yeah. Immediately, there is a pass without a trace cast on the group, and they begin sneaking their way through the city, ultimately um, trying to avoid this large elk-like creature, but also whatever else could be in the town. And that's essentially where the episode ends. Them in search of the Guild Hollow Tower. And that ends episode 56, by goats or by boats, or by boats or by goats. But anyway, full discussion in the comments or in the description below, which let's jump into it. Will, my friend, almost 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
what did you think of the episode?
I liked it. It was I was laughing like the whole episode, really. There was a lot of really
Yeah.
fun moments.
There was
And
definitely some like key D&D table type of moments.
yeah,
Like
100%.
like I just slit its throat. Wait, what?
Yeah,
So
I want to specifically talk more about that moment too. But yeah, I just thought it was a really fun episode, like you said, kind of like classic D&D. And we kind of just got there at the end, but I'm really excited to see Malaismere and like what this is going to lead to. This is a place that I've been wanting, that has been at least mentioned dating back years in the
mhm.
Critical Role canon. So it's cool to finally, get to dive into it. So yeah, what about you?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I had a good time. It was a fun episode. Like I said a second ago, a lot of just like key what the havoc you see at your table definitely happened in this episode. And the players obviously had a great time too, because when the episode ended, they were like, "Can we not just keep playing?"
Yeah,
And
let's
Matt was
keep
kind of like,
going.
"Yeah." Matt was like, No,
We got to fly
we're
to Florida for the
yeah, we're
Creator
done."
Clash.
So, but yeah, no, I liked the episode. It was fun. Some good character development, some good intrigue, with the Wolf King, and yeah, just a fun app.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. And the good thing that I like about recording this a little bit like late, if you will, is that we just have tomorrow for the next one.
right.
So like I'm really excited because I had I watched the first half of this most recent episode live, but then I didn't get the chance to finish it until a few days ago. So uh it's I'm glad we get to like have this right now to like
Right.
refresh everything before the new episode tomorrow. Um but yeah, well, I don't want to spend too much time on this because we've talked about it a lot, and we're kind of don't want to get lost in it again. But one thing that I thought was interesting on the meta level of the conversation here of the groups being split and like what the recording schedule has been, I thought it was interesting that clearly this one was recorded the weekend of the fight, which
Yeah, because Marisha wasn't there for
yeah,
the
because she
intro.
wasn't there, and I don't quote me on this, but I think that might be the first time she's ever not been there for like at least like she's not been in episodes before, but I
Right.
think she's like always been there,
Yeah.
either during the intro or during the break or something. Anyway, beside the point. um but I just thought it was interesting to try to kind of parse how they're doing this scheduling with everything that's going on. And it seems like obviously this one was right before the fight, but it seemed like and it's been so long since I watched the first half, I can't remember why I thought this. Um, but it seemed like this episode they maybe had it had been a little bit for when they came back and played this episode compared to when they left off. So it felt like to me that maybe the first four or whatever with this group maybe were recorded like really quick in succession, and then there was a little bit of a break for whatever reason, and then they did this one right before the fight. Um, don't really have too much to say further than that, but just since it's something we've been speculating on for the past few weeks, I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, and we talked last time about like could they have also already recorded the other party, um, which I think the answer is still yes. And I think for a show that goes, I mean, now we're a year plus on this campaign. Um, yeah, giving the cast some time off. I mean, there's definitely some opportunity for some summer vacations without going off production, I guess.
Yeah,
So
and we do have confirmation. Um, I don't remember where the clip was from because again, it's been a minute since I watched it, but I believe Ness shared it in our Discord of Matt confirming that the other half of the group would also have guest players. So
right.
it'll be really interesting to see if we get as many episodes with that group as we did this one. Because if so, I mean, it could be a while before we get back to everyone being at the table.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's been a lot of conversation and criticism around this, and I think, like I said last time we chatted, I've just kind of come to terms with it. I'm just like,
Yeah,
this is what it is. And I miss the other group and I miss everybody together, but I've kind of just let it go, and I'm just enjoying it for what it is. Yesterday, the episode 2 weeks ago was a great episode. I really enjoyed it. Um, but yeah, separate from that, I definitely miss everybody else.
yeah, of course. And I'll leave it at that because we've talked about that ad nauseum at this point. But I did want to just touch on it really quick before we dove into the episode. Which let's do that now. There's a few different things that I wanted to talk about here. I guess just it's just fresh on my mind, this goat moment. I
Yeah, the
was I
murder
was
of
like
Jerry.
I was like dying laughing during just that whole sequence. And even though it was like hilarious and I was laughing, it was also kind of horrifying. Like,
Yeah,
like what were your thoughts on it? Like I was so surprised that she did that. And like I felt like Imogen's reaction, aka Laura's, was like very valid. And like when they got on the boat later, she was like, I sit as far away as possible from Deanna. And like
I kind of felt like it was an Abria moment more than
more
you
than a
know n-
Deanna moment.
more than a Deanna moment. Which this isn't to take anything away from Abria. Abria is amazing. I think she plays her characters very well. But for me, I just read it as just like a fun moment and not. I mean, it could be she could after the fact build it something interesting into her character. I mean, there might be something. Maybe there is a darker side there that is kind of untapped or untalked about. But for me, I just thought it was. I did think it was hilarious. Very out of character for Deanna, um, or in tension with what we've seen from her so far, and presumably also why Imogen was like, "Hey, we could just leave them. We could just
Yeah.
leave them here. It's their habitat. We don't
Don't
have
have to
to."
murder them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I'm with you. I clearly think it was was an impromptu moment. Not saying she did it just for laughs necessarily, but obviously it was like a really funny kind of moment just to do in the spur and the heat of the moment. Um, and so I do think that's what it was. But since we have that now, and like you said, Abria
yeah.
is such a good player, I'm wondering if there will there
Yes.
will be kind of like some meat put on to the bones, if you will.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
because one thing that's interesting is that
I feel
she
like
is
our
just,
analogies are always so you can't put meat back on a bone.
well,
And yet the expression makes so much sense.
plus meat kind of works kind of punny given the context. Anyway, um, just Deanna is such an interesting character just in general. Like there's definitely some depth there that we haven't
Yeah.
really gotten to with this whole like was dead, has been brought back. and so has this like intimate, for lack of a better word, I don't mean like romantic, but like intimate connection with the Dawn Father, yet is like not that religious, you
Yeah,
know?
and whose best friend is oddly agnostic,
Mm-hmm.
in the sense of they're a tandem pair that um, Frida has very different perceptions on the deities than we would maybe assume Deanna has, but yet, like you pointed out, Deanna doesn't seem quite that religious.
Yeah. So like I think there's a lot under the surface there, plus just the whole, character depth from being dead and coming back and your whole life having passed by you in the sense of all your loved ones and your family, your children are grown. Like she's kind of like a plucked out of time. And
Yeah. I guess if we can like break down the phrasing a little bit, like I know exactly what you mean when you say she's not that religious, but also like I wonder like what would we I think I guess I compare it to a character like Pike, who I didn't quite get to experience outside of Legend of Vox Machina. Like what were some I mean, same deity, what were some differences in how Ashley played her character where we would call I mean, would we call Pike more religious than Deanna? Or
yeah,
okay,
certainly. I don't know.
okay.
Like, I don't know if I'm ready to say like Pike is like an ultra zealot or anything, but definitely compared to Deanna, she just doesn't
She's a full
like
blown cultist, you know.
she she doesn't seem to have a very like personal relationship with the Dawn Father for being like a full blown like cleric of him or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, right.
And again, not that you have to
I
have like
guess,
a personal relationship, but she just is very on the
yeah,
other side completely.
and it's a bit of a foil even to F.C.G, who
Yeah, yeah,
who I would say does seem rather religious. And maybe this is if you guys listen, maybe this is the wrong word. I don't know what word is what we mean to say. Maybe it's either religious or it's not. But FCG does seem to have a very genuine, intentional connection with the Changebringer, and we haven't yet seen that relationship in the same way with. In fact, I think about when Frida asks Deanna, "How do you pray?" and the immediate reaction isn't confidence. It isn't, yeah, this is it's anxiety and nervousness. It's like, oh, and so I think you're spot on there. And it does make me wonder, kind of like you're saying, is there a depth there that hasn't yet been explored with her character?
yeah. I think so. And to pair with that, we know that her and Chetney have this had this fling in the past and are kind of having some chemistry now.
Hmm.
Which I'm not trying to get too in the weeds. It's not. I doubt Abria and Travis like mapped out the full Charlie Day like intricacies of their past relationship. But it is interesting to think that like Chetney's kind of crazy, like
Yeah.
what did she see in him and like what kind of was that relationship like? And so her like just murdering that goat was very Chetney. And so I'm wondering, is it like
Yeah. Yeah.
is that what he brings out of her? Do they kind of bring out this like chaos with each other? Like,
It's like
would she
Ron
have
and
done that if Chetney wasn't
Tammy.
here? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like
It's very
Ron and
Ron and
Tammy.
Tammy. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's a great insight. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, not to just say exactly what you just said, but it does. There's a vibe like that. And actually, I wouldn't say it's unreasonable that they wouldn't have talked about it because we know another CR show, Calamity, Abria talked after the fact about how her, Lou Wilson, and why did I just think Padme? What? That's not
You're
her name.
thinking Pasha, which
Pasha,
was her
yeah.
character's name, right?
Yeah, Marisha's
Yeah.
character. How they met and talked about like, our character and what have they done. And there was even like some pretty interesting lore discussion on like some pretty unethical decisions they had made. Which even made the show Calamity all that more meaningful. So I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't potentially have a conversation and say like, yeah, let's flesh this out a little bit. Let's see how we can,
Yeah.
explore this a bit more.
Well, I bet they did. I just meant that like I doubt that like her murdering the animal was like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
let's like when we get together like I'm going to do crazy stuff. Like I don't think it was to that level, but
We'll go full blown wild card. Travis is like, this is a little bit different from what I meant.
I cut the brakes.
Yeah. Though Chetty jumped in and started harvesting the organs like immediately.
He did. He just went with
Like,
it.
you guys are quite the duo.
So yeah, that
So
it was an interesting moment, and I would love to hear y'all's thoughts in the comments about if you were thought it was funny or you were just starkly horrified. Um, but yeah, just such a hilarious moment all around, especially with Matt, playing the other goat when Fern
yeah.
spoke with animals. That was just peak D&D for me.
And I love yeah. We had two great voices. We had this goat who immediately asks, "Where's Jerry?" in a very goat like voice, and then the fish. The fish was just prime Matt Mercer accent. So
That fish was amazing. Um,
yeah, it was so fishy and yet understandable.
yeah,
So
and he had like the alien like head
yeah,
within his head situation.
yeah,
Um, good times. All right. So wanted to get the goat stuff out of the way. All right. There's a couple things. I'm just bouncing around here. You know the drill, obviously by now.
yeah.
But feel free to rein me in or course correct anywhere. But there's some Chetney stuff I just wanted to talk about in general. Really quick off the top is we have how Travis rolls a D100 every morning to see if he dies in his sleep. I had forgotten that was a thing
I did too.
until they
Like
brought
what?
attention to it.
Till they told him, "Did you roll your D100
Yeah.
today?" Which
I I I can't
I mean,
parse this. Is this just a bit? I mean,
yeah,
it seems like it's a bit, but he actually is rolling, and I feel like I've noticed him roll that a lot, like even when they haven't called attention to it. So, like, I'm wondering, is that like a real thing? Is it a bit? Is it something else that he said that's what it is, but it's
yeah.
actually something with the werewolf or something? I don't know. I just was gonna pick your brain about
I
it.
always thought it was a bit. Even when people were like, we're egging him, not egging him on, but just being like, "Hey, did you roll your dice today?" But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, this is something I feel like Travis would absolutely do. Is just like either A, all right, character's dead. Here's the next one, or B, it is something else. Knowing how closely he likes to keep details to his chest, I
Yeah.
could definitely see it being something else. Though what though? Would it be another, outbreak of like the wolven form, or could it even be something else? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either, and I feel like it could easily be either. Like, I don't feel like it's more one or the other. Like, it could just be the D100 because he's old and he dies. Like, I could totally see that. What's crazy? There's no resurrections right now, so if that's really what it is, and he just happened to die, like, see ya, I guess. Like, I don't know. Um,
FCG could cast, if it works, spare the dying. Not spare the dying, gentle repose to at least
and
keep
just,
his body,
just
you know,
lug around his corpse, and hopefully magic
until
comes back online.
until it starts working again. So
Don't mind the body.
what if it never came back? Do you
That would
think
be
Matt
crazy.
do you think Matt would want to go that? Because we've already had like, I don't know. I don't know. I clearly they're creating something here. So
Yeah, and this probably isn't the video for the discussion on it, but what's interesting with this solstice and the whole world breaking, world schism changing experience that we may be having here is that in the recent announcement they did, they talked about how they're developing not one but two systems.
yeah,
So it I don't see it. I don't see them system changing mid campaign, but like I would put my money on the fact that campaign 4 will not be 5e. It'll be the system they're making.
yeah,
Um, which it's just interesting to think about how maybe that all plays in to what's happening here as far as, could magic never come back online? I think it will, obviously, but it may be different. Um,
right.
but yeah, and speaking of, not to get too deep here, but because magic's offline, and I think this is something we talked about in the last episode with the Raven Queen, and Vax being an orb, and who knows what happened to him right now. people can't be rezzed. Can people even go to the afterlife? You know, like, are their souls? Their souls seemingly aren't being ferried. We don't know how like the mechanics of the different afterlives work in this world. Um, but you know, we know like for example, the people and things and animals in Malaismere like don't pass on, like their spirits like linger and are like transformed and whatever. So just an added layer of kind of sadness to Jerry is that he didn't go to goat heaven. He's
Well, let's
just,
be honest. There's probably not goat heaven. Will.
well, you know, I hope there
I'm
is,
just kidding,
but if there
guys.
is, he's
I'm
not
just
there
joking.
because
My dog will be in heaven with me, okay? Along with Friolito, my little hamster that was given to me by my students.
Beans, was that his name? That was your name.
Fri- Uh,
Or
well, my name is Benz,
well, I
but
thanks. I know your name,
yeah,
but I just thought that they maybe called you that because it sounded like it.
Little Beans was his name. Well,
Okay.
Friolito was his name.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I love you, little guy.
I knew him too
Mm.
for a
Not like I
time.
did.
Oh yeah.
Not
Very
like
well.
I did. So
He was my roommate for a little bit.
it's true. It's true.
um, but yeah. Okay. So the D100 thing with Chet. Then when they were having the whole discussion with Frida and um, you know, when Chet found out that he bit Frida and
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah. Which I'm
they
surprised they hadn't talked about until this moment.
yeah,
I
me too.
thought they would have, but it makes sense.
Which I I asked this during I think I was in the Discord chatting with whoever was live watching at the time. I was like, did we ever get a definitive answer on like if something was happening there or not? I think we were intentionally like it's intentionally vague, but because we knew Christian made some sort of role, I think,
Right.
but like I never went back and checked, so I didn't do my due diligence here. But I couldn't remember if like we knew what he rolled or if he kept that close to the chest or you know if we had any inclination of what the outcome of that was. Um, but it feels like, especially given what then happens in this episode, it feels like we don't know still.
Right.
Um, so one, just interested to see there. But when this conversation's brought up, you know, everyone's asking Chetney, like, well, what happens? Like, have you done this before? Like, what if you've turned other people? And he's like, no, I haven't. They're all dead. So I don't know. That line just stuck out to me, which um not that there's necessarily anything there, but given you know Chetney's attack on that store clerk earlier in the campaign and just his kind of general chaos demon. I'm wondering how many people he's potentially killed. And like, was that just a like, did he bite somebody and then kill them because he knew like he
Mm.
would get in trouble if he turned anybody, or was it more of just a yeah, like the encounters I've had, like even the fights in campaign 3 so far, like he's killed people, they all have technically. Like maybe that's just what he meant. But I was curious if there was potentially layers there of like, oh yeah, I bit a couple people, but like I took care of it. Don't worry.
I think Jenny's unreliable in the sense of
Definitely.
like, you know, he didn't even know he bit Frida. So how could he know who else he's
Yeah.
bit and
Yeah.
that
Good
he
point.
dealt with them? I mean, Imogen basically said as much. Like, well, how do you know? Like, how can you be sure? You know, and I think that's a fair plot point of like you have this person who is supposed to not bite anybody, but seems sure that they haven't, and yet didn't even know the person they were traveling with days after the fact didn't know. Oh, I bit you. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. You know, and also doesn't seem too bothered by the fact that he bit him. It was more like, oh, well, you
Yeah.
know. I mean, so I don't know. I don't trust Chetney. I would not be surprised if he has bit other people, and if that might, you know, we've had the reference of that one group that would like hunt him down. If they may even make an appearance at some point. So
Yeah. I mean, if Frida is bit, I mean, it doesn't seem like they're doing anything to cure them. So, like, if that is true and that does happen, then that group will be after him, right? I mean,
right.
that would be interesting.
Speaking of Chetney, what do you think's going on with this Wolf King?
I don't know. That was interesting because this is where he was bit
Yeah.
originally, but he claims to have killed the wolf that bit him. Again, he's an unreliable narrator, so we don't know if that's true. Do you do you think there's any chance it is him? I don't think so. Um,
No.
but the crown tattoo is a very interesting coincidence.
I
Which,
think, yeah, that's true.
but I don't think it's him for the record. But I have kind of been of the mindset that RTA might stand for something else. Um,
Right.
it probably doesn't, but it's just an added layer to that interesting mystery there. But yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Could it be that he doesn't remember something about the Savalier Woods that, and maybe the tattoo, Brendan Lee Mulligan loves to do like the whole memory, this was actually happening. You didn't know this. It's less with Matt, but I think it'd be interesting if he got that tattoo and, misremembered what it was for. Like, yeah, respect the alpha. And it was actually something else. Because he also, and I don't know if this was intentional as a joke, and again, another bit, or if it was something incredibly subtle. He's odd for someone having been here, oddly unreliable for informing the party about certain dangers,
yeah,
and he's not a very good tour guide, you know?
I know.
It's like after the miasma hit, I was like, oh yeah, watch the miasma. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, you know,
very
I'm just
true.
saying you would kind of expect. I mean, this is where he hid out when he escaped the glass blades. You would assume he would have kind of a jungle expertise, for lack of a better word, and yet he's fairly quiet. So I just wonder if that's a subtle detail, like a subtle hint, or if it's just, you know, like I said, just silliness.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I don't know, but that's a good point. Yeah, I don't know. I the fact that like there is an entity called the Wolf King and it's like that infamous in a place like the Savalier Wood, like is this the first ever werewolf? Like probably not because I don't think they have like
mm,
unnaturally long age. But again, we're in this place where things die and don't pass on. Like
right,
maybe there's something weird going on. Um, but yeah, I hope that I don't know. I don't know if I hope they run into him. Actually, I don't know. I'm very curious. I feel like it's at least tangentially related to Chetney. Obviously, like
yeah.
if it's not that it's the one that turned him, or it is him or anything necessarily, but there's definitely something juicy there, and I hope we get to find out some more. But yeah, I really don't have any ideas other than it just being like a very powerful archfey equivalent like entity of this land or something.
Yeah. It does seem like we're gonna run into it, but then again, I thought we would. I didn't expect to get to Malesmere so fast, in the sense of like we said it was possible like in one episode, but Matt had described a weeks long journey and like mentioned all the other factions that would be potentially present along the way. So I'd say 50-50. This could be another one of those things where it's like, yeah, there's the Wolf King. We never actually run into it, or it could be foreshadowing an encounter with whatever this is that's kind of made its home in
Yeah.
Malesmere. So
Yeah, it at the very very least seems connected to Chet's lycanthropy. Like from the
yeah,
Wolf King's clan is presumably
right.
somebody that bit him.
Yeah, and that's my other thought was: is this like a what was the name of the group that he visited and did like the ritual with?
um, was it the Gorgini?
Yeah, I wondered if this was like the darker, anti that. Um, that was whereas that one's all about control and like honing and discipline. If this one was all about like you know pure chaos, like we see in Malesmere,
Yeah,
um,
and
which I don't know.
maybe it's not even like a lichen. Maybe it's just a wolf.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I
good
guess
point.
it could be. Or Dark Souls esque wolf like that
Yeah,
elk with the human arms.
Yeah.
Ooh, so creepy.
Yeah.
But yeah, would love to hear y'all's comment thoughts and comments on this Wolf King thing. Very intrigued by that. Um, on the anything else on Chet for
I
now?
don't think so.
Okay. Um, for Malayasmir, just in general, we're kind of just scratching the surface, so there's not too much to discuss here. But I'm just very interested to see what they're going to run into and what other creatures they might see. Was that elk creature at one point one of these? I forget what they were called. Not divine beasts. That's
I was
Zelda.
exactly thinking that.
Uh,
Divine
but whatever
beast.
whatever Umahara
Yeah.
was this
Yeah.
at one point one of those and has just been twisted and morphed by the curse here? Um, or was this just like a normal elk and that's like what's happened in the meantime?
Right.
Um, so I'm curious to um, find more out. But it's very interesting that they hear like the whispers like just in their ear, but nothing's there. And I think Matt described like the trees. You felt like they wanted to like grab you or stuff like
Yeah.
that.
It
I'm
almost like they were moving or something.
I'm assuming that's just kind of ambience and playing into the fact of how like things don't pass on here, like spirits are trapped and just all that. But it would be interesting if it was something more concrete, like if there was like an entity or something that was following them, or I don't
Right.
think that's the case. But it would be interesting. Um, so I'm gonna move away from Malaeus Mir unless you got anything. I did think it was interesting when Imogen summoned the thing. I thought maybe something was going to go wrong or something would be different there. Didn't seem to be. It seemed to still follow her commands and I
Because I
think
think
look the same.
Chetney asked, like, can we trust it or something? Like, would it hurt us? And Imogen gave kind of like a vague answer. And Chetney was like, okay, but will it hurt us?
Right.
Yes, I was expecting a little something different too. It didn't like, I I feel like it was like, didn't it say something or do something or I can't remember.
She had it like make a noise as it was traveling to like
Oh,
try
okay.
and get attention of things and I think it just
Yeah.
made like a
Okay.
weird screech. But I don't think it did anything out of the ordinary that she didn't tell it to.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's what I'm thinking of then. Okay.
Yeah. So not much to dissect there, but yeah, when she started to summon that, I was worried something might happen, like because of Rudis being drilled into or something. Maybe they're not there to summon anymore because they're here, or maybe wouldn't listen to her. But yeah, nothing like that happened. So I guess not too much to talk about. I want to talk about F.C.G and the commune scene. But one thing before that, really quick, I thought was interesting is that F.C.G has the telepathic bond spell, um, which is a spell. You mentioned Calamity earlier. We saw it there. It connects everyone's minds and lets them talk to each other,
Right.
which
Yeah.
they were doing at the end of the episode there to be quiet so that they wouldn't, you know,
Right.
attract anything. But it's normally a wizard spell, so I'm
And
guessing it's
then
just something with the kind of homebrew aspects of what Matt and Sam have cooked up, and maybe he just has access to it. But I
yeah,
thought it was
you're right.
interesting.
Well, that and Chetney casting Shatter,
I think he might have access to that from the
the
weapon.
scythe. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I
Okay.
think.
I gotcha. Okay. Yeah, interesting. Okay.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know why he has telepathic bond.
it seems to fit.
But it's fifth level.
It seems to fit
So,
like his character,
mhm.
of like the therapy bot or whatever. Like I don't know, maybe I'm reaching, but so I'm assuming it just has something to do with the homebrew areas of his character.
Yeah. Are
But
they
I'm
level 8 or level
curious.
9?
I think they're level 8.
Yeah, okay. So I mean, you get a divine domain feature at level 8.
Oh,
So
maybe that's what it
maybe
is.
yeah, and we don't have like the homebrew character sheet for his um, for the empathy domain, I guess. So maybe that's part of it. You get access to a couple of spells or that spell specifically.
Yeah, that would make sense. And they're level 9 actually. I just found out.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but that checks out. I mean, I'm sure it's something to that effect. But
It,
yeah,
it
just
it it has to be because at level 9 you have one fifth level spell slot as a cleric. He already casted commune, so he shouldn't have another spell slot because isn't telepathic bond fifth level?
um I don't
Yeah,
remember.
yeah, it's fifth level also.
So yeah, okay, so
So
yeah, then that either he made a mistake or it's something like from a feat or a like you said the divine thing.
yeah, it's definitely it has to be something. I feel like unless it's a mistake, because like I said, he only has one fifth level spell and he casted commune with it.
Very interesting.
Which, by the way, we predicted on the podcast that he was going to take commune. So another prediction on point. One of few.
That's right. Looking at when I looked up what level they were, I am reminded now that we got all the new artwork. Um, did you
Ooh,
notice that?
no.
I didn't know if you were listening or watching when you ended up watching. Yeah, I've seen some mixed comments about the new artwork. Um, which not that that's something we need to get into, but it does presumably mean we'll get new artwork for the other half of the party when we see them. So I wonder. They didn't end up getting clothes for the other crew that I recall. So I'm guessing the other team at some point might do some shopping themselves. Um, okay. So the commune spell. Not that there's like too much to dissect here or anything. Um, but I just thought it was really interesting, and we slash F.C.G now has like hard concrete proof and evidence that there is this god the Changebringer that is like has this relationship with them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm curious what F.C.G does going forward. It seems like F.C.G needed a direction in their life, found
Mm,
just kind of randomly picked the Changebringer, or so it felt like, and then has been flipping the coin ever since. Has kind of been steering his life based on that, and now they have hard concrete proof that that's like a real thing. So
right.
I kind of see F.C.G becoming like to cite back to our earlier conversation, pretty religious.
Yeah.
And maybe even something we talked about a few episodes back was like there hasn't really been in this grand question of like kill the gods or help the gods. Like we didn't really have anybody firmly on team. Like, well, no, we need to keep the gods around. It seems like we now probably do. Um,
Yeah. Right.
so I think that'll just be it'll be an interesting dynamic to have. Not, I mean, maybe that question's maybe we're already past that question, but I could still see this campaign coming to a moment of like, of not like help or kill the gods necessarily, but that argument could still be like brought up and RP'd on.
Yeah.
And I think now we have a really interesting perspective from F.C.G to share.
And I think it's cool. I think it's cool coming from him also
Yeah.
being what you would not quite expect to be the character to be the champion of a deity.
Yeah.
So I'm for it. I like it. I did pull up his character sheet, by the way, and he does not have. They haven't updated from just this last session at level 9, um, and he only doesn't get it from his character class. I think it was either a mistake or if you cast it as a ritual, it doesn't consume a spell slot. Is that right? Am I misremembering how
Yeah,
ritual spells
yeah.
work?
You can ritual cast something in it. Yeah, that's right,
Yeah,
I think.
I'm assuming he ritual casted it, and just since he didn't have the spell slot, or maybe commune was ritually casted, which I don't know if commune can be. I don't know enough about these two spells, but I think it was either a mistake or went around the spell slot in some way. But Like I said, their character sheets are on crit roll stats,
Okay.
which is interesting. But yeah, interesting conversation, I guess, with the Changebringer. Um, we thought when I joked earlier about making the call on this, we thought he might take Commune at level 5 for the ability to talk to the Changebringer,
Mm-hmm.
and seemingly had that conversation now. Um, I'm I'm really curious, like how this relationship develops and like where we go from here. And he hasn't shared the conversation with the rest of the party either.
Right.
No, he did. Did he? He did actually.
Well, now
Actually, I don't remember.
I can't
Yeah,
remember
I don't remember.
because it's been a while since I watched the first half of the episode. I don't remember. What's interesting though is one that it even worked.
Yeah,
Um, Especially because we have like the other accounts from the I don't remember the character's name, but the priest or whatever of the Dawn Father who has like not heard from their god and
yeah,
is like devastated by it. And
yeah,
clearly that person probably tried casting commune or whatever you want to call it in universe. So it's interesting that FCG like actually got an audience, as it were. And we got the answer yes to do we need help, and Matt described the figure like joining other figures as if like the gods are kind of like secluding themselves in a way.
yeah.
So I'm just curious, like what's going on? What are they doing? Is the reason for magic being offline or subdued not necessarily because of the solstice and whatever lewdness is doing, but maybe in some part because the gods are retreating in a sense,
Right.
like to
Yeah.
protect themselves. Little column
It
A, little column B.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to line up with other things like Deanna describing the Dawn Father like pulling away. Um, that kind of language has been used quite a bit. So I have a hard time imagining a world that doesn't have any gods, like any deities whatsoever, because it creates some oddness around the cleric class specifically. And I think of also the paladin class, a little bit of the warlock class. So I'm just wondering where this goes long term. Do the gods leave and it creates like a power vacuum where now what has been a theme of I'll just say Exandria, people wanting to ascend to godhood, which could create some really interesting plot threads, or will there be a moment like you described where they have to decide, are we going to defend the gods or not? And there is sort of like this battle of the gods that they're part of or something, which I don't know. But
Yeah, I mean, me neither. We definitely have some really interesting like conflicts, for lack of a better word, lined up here to see what happens. I just started thinking about the end of Final Fantasy X. Spoilers. Where you kind of have to decide, like, if you're gonna continue the cycle, of sin,
right.
or like,
Yeah.
sacrifice your summons or whatever. Um, I wonder. I don't think we're gonna culminate in a moment like that. To me, it seems like they've decided, like they're helping the gods. Unless there's like some weird heel turn from Imogen and
Mm.
like Laudna's like I'm with her, and I don't know, maybe there's something like that, but it seems like they've decided they're here to help. But it would be cool if there was like a choice and a moment like that. Um,
I think I think we seemingly have to be heading to some kind of moment like that because of so many. Again, not that it's prescripted, but the players have been kind of creating that tension. I feel like with Aurum, we know Aurum is Team God for the
mhm.
most part, um, and we know there's uncertainty from him about Imogen,
Yeah,
and will Imogen ally herself with her mom? Um, to the point of basically going to Fern and being like, "Hey, if the moment comes, you're gonna have to,
yeah,
like this is your friend you're talking about, and then Orem, the last bastion of morality, he's ultimate dad is I'm not worried about you, Imogen.
Yeah.
I think lying, but maybe not. I don't know. But I don't know.
Yeah. Just
It just makes me miss Liam at
I
the
know
table.
just saying that got me excited for like just being with those characters and getting their perspective on everything that's
Yeah.
happening right here, like the conversations they're having. Yeah. I mean, we're obviously building to some sort of conflict with this whole situation of, the gods versus not. It'll just be interesting to see if that splits into a party conflict at that point, which I guess
Mhm.
it hinges on Imogen because I don't see anyone else for any reason taking a stand with ridding
Mhm.
the world of the gods at this point.
Yeah. Hmm.
Hmm.
Crazy stuff. I think we maybe have one or two more episodes. I know we keep doing this where it's like, what's the point? But I really do feel like I'd say one or two episodes to wrap up Molesmere and then conclude back in town. If even they go back to town, back to Uthadurn. Um,
I was
but
gonna
I'm assuming,
say, do you think they're gonna be that nice to us, where it's like a clean cut, like, we made it back to town. All right, see you guys. Like, or is it could be like a devastating cliffhanger, and then all of a sudden we're with the other group, and we don't know what happened with them.
I don't know. Honestly, I was so annoyed at the way we left the cliffhanger of the Apogee Solstice that I feel like I don't know if I want to do that again. Where it's
Yeah,
like, you know, cut to the other group, like, all right, let's go find a town to be part of, and
yeah,
it kind of restarts again. I don't know. I think the feeling, the pacing is going to be weird regardless. It's not easy to pull off. So
yeah. I mean, yeah, because it's not. They're not gonna meet up at the end of this arc. We are getting an arc with the other group, so something has
right,
to happen that we leave them hanging. But maybe it is just like we go back to town. But I mean, presumably, I mean, I guess not presumably. We don't know how they'll handle it. But when they all come back together, more than likely these guests aren't going to be there. So, like, will we see them split from Frida and Deanna at the end of our little arc here before we split to the other group? Or, you know, will they all be together last we see them? And then when Bell's Hells regroups, they're not. And we just get caught up to speed on what happened to them. Because, like,
right,
Frida and F.C.G are moving real quick. Like, I don't see them just parting ways like naturally without
right.
like good reason. Um, or if Frida pulls the self-sacrifice cord that they've been trying to pull. So, so yeah, I could see it being a cliffhanger where something crazy happens, but it could easily
Right,
just be not.
right.
So, yeah.
All right. What else from this episode, by the way?
I think we covered most of the things I wanted to, unless you had anything else.
No, I don't think so. I think that's everything. Uh, I'm just looking at these character sheets now, just out of curiosity, but nothing,
So
nothing interesting.
when character sheets, you don't just mean like the picture with the stats, right? You have like an actual like
Yeah, actual
sheet
character
with the
sheets.
feats and stuff.
Yeah,
Okay, I haven't seen that. I need to look at those too.
yeah. So
Interesting. All right, but yeah, we've got just a little over a day until the next episode. Which it is with the same group. They at least when they tweeted their weekly schedule, it was a Christian was in the picture. So unless they're pulling like a I don't know what this was, but
yeah,
unless they're pulling a whoopsie doo, it's definitely this group still rather.
yeah,
And I'm with you. I think we get maybe one or two more episodes with them.
yeah. Okay.
So this
Well,
could be the last one potentially with this
it
group.
it could be, it could be. Um, it's really nice seeing the character sheet, by the way, for Frida, because I've been so confused as to. I thought Frida was a cleric in their first episode, and then when they would like action surge, I'd just be like, okay, wait, but I think they're yeah, okay, yeah, they are three classes.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
fighter, rogue, cleric. So makes a lot more sense.
Just taking them all.
Yeah. Which classes do you want? Yes.
All of them.
All righty. Cool. All right. Well, let us know what you guys thought about the episode and your theories for tomorrow night's episode, and we will pick it up from there. Thumbnail. Will, what do you think?
thumbnail. Maybe like, oh, I don't know. Maybe either like horrified or something like related to the goat killing, or even the Dark Souls elk. I guess either one could be. I don't know.
I kind of like the goat thing, but I don't know quite how we would pull it off.
Hmm.
Uh, I guess one of us could be like, meaning cutting the goat's throat or something. It'd be hard to get it in frame, and the person's like, "Wait, what?"
Okay, yeah, they may be like, yeah. All right, one person like
You're
sinister,
looking
the other
for,
person like horrified.
yeah, you're looking for a goat head around your room.
I was seeing if I had like a knife or something, but I don't think I have one handy.
Don't have your poop knife near you.
Ugh. Oh God, please no.
Sorry.
Don't look that up if you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, but all right. I guess we could just do that.
Okay.
You got preference?
I can be scared.
All right. I'll be
Right.
I'll be
All right.
sinister.
All right. Cool.
All right.
Works for me.
We'll throw something together.
Yeah. Who knows? All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in today and for checking out the channel. And we'll be back with more content down the road.
Till next time, y'all. See ya.